So if you like really complicated builds and you want to add a really special point of interest on your diorama, these are great. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and today I'm going to have a closer look at this interesting kit. This is from Thunder Model. No, it's Thunder Model. So it's a fairly new company out of China, and they do some unusual vehicles, mainly in World War II. And this is one of their selection of different tractors. So this one they call the US Army Loader. It's actually a Case VAI tractor. So Case was a company that made quite a lot of equipment for the Allied forces. And of the variations of the tractor, they made a total of 15,000 units. And quite a few of these are used in civil service as well. So it's great to have something like this, because in the past, these sort of things would have been seen as being quite mundane. But just to have a diorama with this by itself, or even this in the background, it just adds another element of interest. So let's open it up, have a look inside, and I'll show you why these particular kits are quite special. They have quite a lot of details included, and even tractors, because they have the open engines, there's a lot going on there. Okay, let's have a look from the top. Now you see that the box art is quite nice. Nice box art is always helpful to give you an idea of context, even some coloring ideas as well. So you can see this is the military version in US markings. You've got a partial cowl. It does have quite a lot of engine detail, full engine detail underneath there. This one has the dozer attachment on the front, and I really like it. So let's look inside, open it up, sort of thin little box, but it's not a particularly big vehicle, same sort of size box as their motorcycle kits, and I'm building a Indian at the moment, which is really nice. So there you go, so you've got bagged parts there, you'll see the rubber tires on the top. So I'll pop this aside and we'll have a closer look at everything. All right, so let's start off. We've got some tires. This is probably not the best background. Let me bring this back. Here we go. You can see the tires there. Now tires actually have some really nice molded in details. So let me see if I can get this to zoom in a bit. Okay, get that focused. Now you can see the pedals that are on the tires. And they're rubber, so sort of stiff rubber, which is good. You don't want it too soft. But it does give you that advantage of having that natural rubber effect. You know how it sort of turns a little, I guess a light grey when you rub across it with scratches and such. And then you can put washes and different pigments on that just to bring it out as well. Now the front tires have got a couple of ribs, which is nice. You can fill those up with mud and dirt, bring those out. So they're very nice there. So nice touch. All right, so rubber tires, let's bring that back. Let's get it back to the wide area there. And I'll start off with our first set of sprues. Okay, so first thing to notice is everything's really clean. Very nice molds, all brand new. See how all the gates are super clean, and you don't have any flashing. Flashing is one of those things that we really don't like, because it's just additional cleaning up to do, and as you're cleaning up, there's more chances of damaging the actual parts. So you can see here, let's spin around this way. You've got the engine and gearbox right here. You've got two halves. You've got wheel caps, so they'll be for the fronts, obviously, because there's the smaller ones. You've got the larger ones there for the rear. You've got the bonnet top there as well. Let's see that. Really nice sharp details along there. You can just see the how those, I guess you call them triple pinstripes, go across the top. There's the other side of the wheels for the front, and then you've got bits and pieces here, and you've got the grille on the front, which is really nice. These are all been, I guess the word is perforated. Okay, so if I try to do that, zoom in again just so you can see. You can see how clean that is. See all the way through it, no flashing in there as well. So really nice. Okay, you can see these are the covers for the rear tyres, so the mud flap bits. And you just see there how you got all these rivet details. Small parts probably around the engine somewhere. There's a rear hub for the front wheels. Front wheels there. And that's where I was talking about those pinstripes on the top of the bonnet. See engine details there. with a gearbox. A couple of rings again for the wheels, and then there's the other side. Okay, so that's the first set of sprues, and that's the B parts. Okay, so let's pop that aside. Go back to the overview. All right, so we've got another sheet here. Okay, again, you can see how super clean it is. They do have these really fine parts here. These are probably going to be parts of the steering rods, I guess, or suspension. And you often see that in mini art kits too. They have super fine parts. So whenever you cut these, it's always handy to have super sharp cutters. The God hand cutters would be perfect for these. If not, then cut them off from the ends here and then carefully snip off the rest of the gate. Otherwise you can easily crack these across the centers. It's not a bad thing if you crack it, it just means you don't have to re-glue it. Okay, so here we've got quite a few components. You've got the steering wheel there, you can see how super fine it is. You've got the rear axle and the diff. Quite a few little plumbing parts. You've got gearbox lever. There's the, what do you call that? That'll be the fan shroud with the radiator. So you can see both sides of the radiator here. These are probably the gas tanks or the fuel tanks. You've got the seat, a little bucket seat. Now let's just zoom in on here, just so you can see how nice these details are. Now let's just make sure that's focused. Is that focused? I'm going the wrong way. There we go. Okay, so let's start from this corner. Alright, so you can see all these fine bits. Alright, so there's a gear lever there across the top. Some of these parts I don't recognise. We'll find out what they are when we go through the instructions. There's your little push rods and things. So there's the bits that I'm telling you you should be really careful with. If you've got super sharp side cutters, like the God Hand SPN 120s, they'll be perfect. Oh, there's a bucket seat right there. Over here you got the gearboxes. This little thing here looks almost like a tow hook, doesn't it? And then you've got your steering wheel. So steering wheel is super fine, that's really nice. There's your radiator. It's actually got a mesh pattern, I think. No, maybe not. It's got a matte finish to it, but it's not actually meshed. But still looks very nice. Okay, they're the parts that look like side panels of the engine. Tanks, I think. Then we go back to the seat. Okay, so you can see all these small bits. There's parts of the engine there. Looks like carburetor and such, intakes. But then over here there's some smaller parts. Okay, so that's the second sprue. And then we've got the final set of sprue, which is another large set. Okay, spin around here. Okay, so here we've got the large dozer parts. So you can see how they got that curve there. Probably the arms. There's a another part of probably bonnet, I guess. And then there's all these really fine parts here, which will be mechanisms for, again, the engine. You see there the arms for the dozer. And let's do this zoom again. Get a close look at some of these bits. Okay, so here we go with the dozer part. Not too sure what this box section is, but there's a dozer. Okay, so that's the bucket. And then over here we've got all those little bits. There's the arms for the dozer, just across here. Small bits and pieces. Some side panels. And then we've got all these parts here. These are probably parts of the arms as well, for the dozer. And as we come back across here, that looks like part of the bonnet as well. Okay, so from there, what do we got? Let's look at this manual. Okay, so we've got the manual here. Oh, that's pretty zoomed in. And more zoom than we want it. There we go. Okay. So manual on the first page, it gives you a legend of what all these symbols mean, just so you understand what you're meant to be doing. So whether you're cutting or drilling, applying glue or such. And then it's arranged like this. Okay, so we start work on building the engine. Because the engine here, we've got those two halves of the engine and the gearbox. And then all these parts are put together. We've got the fan all mounted up. And you can see here how you can actually make a belt with a bit of string. And then we've got all the intake going onto the side of the engine. You've got the exhaust. This is the radiator. And then the tank, inside there. You can see how the engine has already taken so many steps. Okay, so that's all the engine detail. We move on to, that's step 5 over here. So we'll do the rear tyres. There's the axle getting put together. Then your sub-assembly, and then that's attached to your main sub-assembly with the engine and the gearbox. So the engine and the gearbox is basically like the chassis of the tractor. Okay, so from this point, we start building up the back section. You've got the, well, actually, these were the mud flaps getting done here. You've got this rear section, which will incorporate the seat. This is the cowling getting put together, and you see how that just drops over the top to cover up the engine. So with this sort of construction, I guess it'll be easy enough to leave it loose, so you can actually take it off and see all of that engine detail that you just constructed. Over here we've got the seat arrangement with the framework, a little spring. You just glue that into place. And then we move on to the front end. Okay, so you've got the solid front with the hubs, got the wheels and the tires going together. Oh, there's that front part that looks like a tow hook. That's part of the actual struts for keeping the front together. That goes onto your main sub-assembly, and then you've got these trailing links for the suspension. For the steering. You've got the foot pedals. So you've got foot pedals both sides. And then that's practically the tractor finished. We move on to the bulldozer part. So you've got all this framework, all the pneumatics. You see all across here. You've got all the plumbing involved there as well. And then over here, I've got all these photo etch parts that need a bit of super glue to put them on. And there's a sort of zoom view so you can see exactly how these go in place. Here's a mechanism for the dozer getting glued onto your tractor. And then you've got controls here for the dozer as well. Dozer arms, the bucket, and then the bucket is hooked onto the arms. And you can imagine this is a very small model. It's only going to be about this big, but it has so much fine detail in it. It's just amazing. So if you look online, you'll be able to see some finished models of these, and they're absolutely amazing. Okay, so you've got your arms, they're going put into place, and then from here you can choose whether or not you want to display your bucket up or down. So that's fully controllable there, and you've got instructions here on how you can apply fine thread, like that super stretchy stuff. The name eludes me at the moment. But once you put that on, that's even taking it further to another level, and you can do all this sort of rigging over here as well. And here you've got that box section that I didn't know what was, so that's going to be your counterweight bucket at the back. And then you've got a legend here of all the parts. Okay, so that's the manual, but that's not the end of it. We still have this bag here with photo etch parts. Okay, so let's get the zoom in here. Focused. Okay, so we've got some decals. Decals are all white stencils. Okay, so you've got military markings and then also civil markings. So let me just spread that out. Okay, so you can see here. So you've got the case as well. That'll be for civilian markings, but the white ones there would be for, you'll have stars for Allied and American use. Then over here we have 2 sets of photo etch. You've got a set of brass, these yellow ones. So you've got some tread plate along here. And then there's some copper ones as well. The copper ones feel slightly thicker. And there's a variety of different threads. So these would be what you'd use for the rigging I showed you before. Okay, which is great that it includes all that. So you've got some copper wire there, the orange one. And then there's actual fiber thread as well. And then you can see there, that's that copper sheet of photo etch. So all this stuff, all included in this tiny little kit, is just amazing. Okay, so you've got those parts, and then we finish off with the decal guide. Okay, so these are a military style, both are military. So if you wanted to paint it up in a civilian one, well, they're available in a whole lot of different colors. So it's up to you to look online, just do a simple search. You'll find lots of photos of variations that you can choose from, or different colors. Bright colors work really well. Stanley's painted in a light blue, and they've weaved it so that you've got scratched up paint. Look fantastic. Okay, so this is a US Air Force marking, France 1944, and this particular one is an engineering unit from Europe in 1944. So there you go. That is my open box review of, let me just get this ready. There you go. The US Army loader from Thunder Model. Really beautiful kit. It's quite small, super detailed. So if you like really complicated builds and you want to add a really special point of interest on your diorama, these are great. So that's it. So the Case VAI loader from Thunder Model in 35th scale.